Hey, what's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to episode 31 of the Double ETF podcast, Everything Except the Football. I hope you guys are doing great. Today, this is part 2 of my conversation with Conn, the quick and quirky questions. And we also have an anecdote before those questions. Fun times like part 1, and I hope you guys enjoy. What else? Yeah, we have a new member in the awesome club joining. Carly, Kevin, Josh, Nick, M-Bags, Carly again, Hector, Tom Newerberg, Tony Greathouse, RJ. We now have Woody on the club. Thank you very much for your donation. Very much appreciated. So if you want to do the same, you can go to paypal.me/EETFpod. You want to drop us a line, you can go right ahead at EETFpod on Twitter or EETFpodcast@gmail.com. I think that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoy part 2 of my conversation with Aaron, the quick and quirky questions, and we will talk again soon. Thanks. All right, so welcome to part 2. Welcome back, Aaron. Okay, so yeah, you wanted to mention how you got into Rock Solid.
Yeah.
So please, go ahead.
Well, I mean, as far as with music, I mean, it also kind of started with the Beatles and just escalated from there. And I just kept trying to find new band, a bit new to me, just exploring the careers of all these different bands over a period of some 15 years or so. And along with listening to these bands and reading up on them at the same time, I was also interested in Survivor. I got into Survivor, the CBS reality show, during its 4th season. I remember it was one night, my grandmother was at her house and she asked if I wanted to watch Survivor with her. And it was the night that season 4 Survivor Marquesas had started. And I went, okay, yeah, I had heard Survivor before. I knew that it was popular at some point, but I mean, at that point, this was season 4, but I didn't really know any of this or anything. I just went, yeah, okay, I'll watch it. And I was intrigued by it immediately and just thinking, okay, so they just keep going until there's one person left. All right, well, I think I missed like the first half hour of the second episode and I missed the third episode completely. But then after that, I was on the schedule of tuning in. At that point, it was Thursdays at 8 and then later Wednesdays at 8. But I just kept watching every season, every year. And just there were some seasons I liked and then there were some seasons I didn't. But I mean, if a season wasn't that great, then you would always rely on that. Well, there's always, let's just get into the next season. So this kept going on for a couple of years. I did see the first 3 seasons of Survivor in their entirety. The only way that you could watch them prior to them being released was when they had the DVD. I mean, the DVDs were very expensive then, but I eventually watched all them in their entirety. But aside from that, they had like a highlight, like a most outrageous moments from the first 2 seasons DVDs, and there were the retrospective videos that were there for the second and third seasons that I would watch on CBS on the old websites that they made for each individual season, which are no longer there anymore. But eventually, around 2011, I watched the first 3 in their entirety, even though I already knew what happened in them. But I just wanted to have that experience of saying I watched them, and they're all great seasons. So by the time it was the fall of 2016, that was when season 33 was airing, Millennials versus Gen X. And one of the contestants was a guy named David Wright. David was a 40-something TV writer from California, originally from Pennsylvania area. And he was this very out of his element, very anxious, very, I guess, shy, anxious person that was out of his element. But he wanted to play because he was such a big fan of the show. And I guess I heard him. I mean, the way that they have the show now, it's now more game and strategy over the experience that the contestants have. And like you barely see like any scenes devoted to how they're going to survive out there, what they're using to make shelter. It's more so the strategy and the idols and all the advantages that they throw in there. But I think one of the other things that David wanted to do was he wanted to prove something to himself and just make new friends and just meet people. And when watching him in the pre-show, they always do the pre-show interviews. So you can get to know the cast a month before. Like they do interviews before the game starts and they do that. And they show those videos in the promotional things like 30 days before the premiere. And I'm watching all of them and I'm watching David's and I'm thinking, this guy's kind of like me. I just couldn't help it. I'm just thinking, I saw that he was originally from Pennsylvania. I'm thinking it's his heart, but I don't really go into a season rooting for somebody. I just want to see like who the characters are all going to be. I mean, people can already just look at the bios and think, oh yeah, they're going to be in the final three or whatever. Like, let's just see where they go from now, or just how they're going to handle the game, or just let's not make any predictions about where they're going to place. So the premiere starts, and David, his first few weeks were not great. He really struggled out there and made some questionable moves out there. But then over the season, he got to be not only a better player, but a better person. And I think he has the most confessionals for that season, which are the interviews that they give out there. They call them confessionals, and there are people out there who keep count of all of them for each season. I think David had the most, and one of the biggest characters, if not the biggest character of that season. And just watching his season, I mean, all due respect to David, Millennials versus Gen X is just okay. It's a fine season. A little too strategy obsessed season, but I think it's one of the last ones where you really get to feel that how close the contestants were with one another. And David's story really spoke to me, and it kind of hit close to home. So I I sent him a message through Facebook when the season was airing. And after the season was airing, and I just said, thanks for being on this season. It really means a lot to me. I've struggled with social anxiety itself. And he sent a message back, and he was very nice. And I had a Twitter account, and I started that in 2011 because it was required for one of my mass comm classes. And I kind of used it here and there, mostly whenever I would use it once in a while. I could never get into the habit of keeping it to how many characters they used to have. And then most times I would be using it to tweet things about Community, just to save the show. But other than that, nothing really. And then I noticed how easy it was to get in touch with some of these people on Twitter, these contestants on Survivor. And David's cast, very friendly group of people. I think even one of them followed me before the season started. I'm just like, wow, they're really... And it kind of encouraged me to like keep posting on Twitter more. And I've followed David. And shortly after his season ended, he finished in 4th place. So he's just one away from the final tribal council where they decide on the winner. But I think he said he preferred that he would have loved to have, there are some cases where he would have loved to have the $1 million, but I think he came out, he thought that it would probably add more anxiety of having the money, that he just liked being there as a better person.
That's a good point.
So, I just kept following him. He was on a few podcasts afterwards, and one of them was Rock Solid.
All right.
So Rock Solid was this podcast hosted by Pat Francis, and I already had an idea that David was into music. I know his favorite band is the Rolling Stones. I was already looking at some of his tweets and Instagram before that, and I was thinking, okay, he likes music too. So I went ahead and listened to the podcast, and I'm looking down the whole list of episodes on my phone. That morning it dropped, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is a podcast I could start listening to from now on. And the reason why Pat knows David is because David took a class taught by Pat's wife, Pilar, who's in screenwriting, and that's how they knew each other. So I just kept listening to Rock Solid, and at some point, Pat would talk about how he would write for Pop Culture Beast and how he was able to get stuff for free to review and get into concerts. And me being the mass comm major who's been looking for a writing job anywhere, maybe not trying hard enough or thinking that there's nothing out there, like I just kind of get discouraged easily and just think, no, there's no jobs out there for me. And then once I heard about this, I'm thinking, well, I want to be a part of that. So I actually contacted their founder, Garen Cockerell, and I just said, I'm interested in joining because I'm a mass comm major. I heard about it through Pat, and he said, well, you don't get paid for it. It's volunteer. And I said, that's fine. And they let me into the group, and soon enough, I friended Pat and Kyle, and they all said, if you need any help with the website. And it took me a while. I thought we were supposed to send them the writings, but it turned out, no, it's a WordPress website, which I quickly figured out. And then I got to writing reviews. It took a while to get some releases coming over here, but Pat got me some connections, and soon enough, I was getting stuff to review. I get these things for free on the condition that I write a review on them.
Okay.
So, the Alejandro Jodorowsky set is an example of that. I write a review, I get it for free. So, I've been getting a bunch of things. The one artist that I've been getting a bunch of releases on Pat hooked me up with Cherry Red Records, and Cherry Red had been doing the reissue series of a group called The Residents, who are kind of like a proto, like precursor to Blue Man Group. Like they're a collective, they're performance artists.
Okay.
They're probably best known for they have the eyeball masks and the tuxedos and top hats. They're a pretty wacky band, and I just got into them like a few years prior to that, and they went ahead and they're reissuing almost all their albums, and it's coming to the point where like The Residence is like has a very large part of my hard drive now, just because of all those reissues. So they're calling them the Preserved Edition series, so I've been reviewing them, and then eventually it's a little bit harder to get into the concerts, but eventually I was able to get into a couple concerts.
Nice.
And one told the story on Josh's podcast, but I'll tell it quickly here. I was able to get in to see King Crimson. That was my first show that I got to go in to see, to review. So I go in there 2019, and this is my third time going to that venue, the Met in Philly. And it had been, and I'm thinking, well, I want to talk to the person who's there at the Met. I mean, I would like to have a contact basis like I had with some of the other people in the record labels. Like I would like to have somebody, that go-to person to say, hey, can I have tickets for this? And I went to go pick up my tickets at the box office, and I'm not charged. I go over to my seats and I realize, I didn't ask if I can talk to if I can see if I can get a contact email, because all they had was online info@themetphilly.com. No, I want an actual person's email. So I went, all right, well, it's not that long of a walk downstairs. So I go downstairs, I look all around, swarms of people there, and I look somewhere and I see leaning up against the wall near the box office is David Frick from Rolling Stone.
Okay.
And I had met David Frick about a couple years prior in 2012 through my uncle. My uncle had someone he worked with, had a sister who worked at Rolling Stone. And that was my 20th birthday present, that we went to New York in early 2012, and I got to sit down and talk music with David Frick, and I got to have a tour of the Rolling Stone offices that day.
Nice.
And now here I am, some 7 years later, yeah. And I'm just looking around. I couldn't believe that. And I'm just like, do I go up to him or what? And I'm just find myself slowly going over there. I go, Mr. Frick, my name's Aaron. We met a few years ago. And there's nothing in our conversation that would indicate that he did remember me, but here's my logic. The guy's hung out with Lou Reed and Metallica. He can remember some then 20-year-old who was coming to his office to talk about music. So he had to remember me. So we talked, and I told him that, I'm here on assignment, I'm here because, I gave him the short version that it's just watching contestant on Survivor, and now, here I am. And it's just all that from just watching just a reality show for period of 15 years would lead me up to that moment. And I asked if I could get a picture with him. I did. And then afterwards, I texted my mom and I went, you're not going to believe who I met. And I showed her a picture and she went, just like she just put all smiley faces, emojis. And I was also sending stuff to Pat. And I know that Pat likes to refer to, because he has David Wild, he likes to refer to David Wild as David that rocks, and David Frick is the David that sucks. And I just went, hey, look who I got to meet. And he said, oh, it's the other David.
Oh, well. Well, that's pretty cool, though.
And yeah, David Frick, it's so great to meet somebody like him. And just, I had a hint that my uncle may have a lead on Rolling Stone. And he just said, is there anybody you would want to talk to? This was for that meeting in 2012. And I just said, well, David Frick, because he's in those classic album documentaries. I always like what he has to say, and he's always writing blurbs, Frick's picks, for like all these independent. I mean, he has a huge appreciation for Arthur Lee and Love, who I really, really like, and just always defends like the cult favorites. And I would, if he can get anything to happen there. And then I think it was the day of my 20th birthday, he said that we're going to go over to New York and we're going to meet David Frick. And that happened during the break, Christmas break. So that was like January 2012, and then I get to meet him again. I did see King Crimson again earlier this year, and I was thinking, oh, is he going to be there? I didn't see him there, but I did see there was a person who came up, sat right next to me, and he had a pad and note paper, and he was writing down notes, and I said, excuse me, are you a writer? And he said, yes, he is a writer. So I made a connection that night, and we talked about a couple things, and he said, oh, how'd you get your job? And I said, well, that's a bit of a weird story. It came from years of watching Survivor. That is weird.
Yes.
So I'm still in touch with him, and his name is Jordan. So see if he can help me get in any. And I asked him Facebook afterwards. After the King Crimson show, I said, it was really nice meeting you and getting to talk to you, because there were two bands. There was the Zappa band, and then King Crimson came on, and there was time where we got to talk to each other and about jobs and what he did and what I did, and I said in the Facebook message, "Are you okay with help each other out, just send each other things?" And he said, "Yeah, that's fine." So in a way, it's kind of better than meeting David Frick again, because because when I was right there with him, I'm thinking, I see email again. And I'm like, do you still use your Rolling Stone email? Yeah, he still uses it. And I've sent him a few emails here and there, but I'm sure my message amongst the hundreds and hundreds that he gets.
All right. You remember what Pat said? Just keep emailing.
Yeah, I don't do the technique that he told John Lamoureux. I do not do that one, because that is exactly what I'm afraid of there. And furthermore, I thought about, I guess, the Pat Francis technique of these things. Like, I'm thinking his way of doing it was like, this is the worst. I've been working in this field, and this is the worst I've heard from anybody. Like, I'm thinking, no, because then I'm lying. And I'm very honest. No, that's not good. I just can't do that. And then I think it's a good thing to have, because furthermore, I did think about it later on, and I'm thinking, they could easily look at my name and see that I have done little to nothing. I've only been in this for a few years. So I don't think it's the wisest thing to be telling them, yeah, I've been in this for a few years. And
well, I mean, you have. You have, in a way. I mean, you've been active on the scene.
My first interview was with Bob Jackson from Badfinger. That was like shortly after I watched Almost Famous. I know.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I consider myself, even though I'm not employed by any music magazine, I still consider myself a music journalist. And I guess I have another excuse to say that, because I have a podcast now for 2 years. So
there you go. All right. So we can move to the quick and quirky questions.
All right.
Okay. So, well, you know about them. You've heard them before. So let's go. Number 1. Would you rather speak all languages or play all musical instruments?
Musical instruments.
All right.
Because I'm a music listener, I would have really liked to have, I do play bass here and there, but I really would have liked to have learned to have, there's still time to play the guitar, but I think I realized that I think I'm just more, it came to the point where I just realized that, I'm not too interested in playing the guitar. I'm more interested in reading about people who play the guitar.
Okay.
And I think that's just the way it is. So.
No, yeah, sure. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to learn to play something. That's absolutely fine. No problem. Okay, next question. If you could get a ticket to any show or event, what would you want a ticket to? Past or present?
Well, there's nothing. Can it be an event that doesn't have a set date or anything?
Whatever you want.
All right. Well, there's one artist that I would really like to see in concert, and that is John Cale from the Velvet Underground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's ever going to tour again. I think he turned 79 this year. And when he does come to America, it's usually almost the closest he comes to is New York.
Okay.
But if he were ever to come to New York, I would definitely want to go there and see him. So I can say I've seen one member of the Velvet Underground, because everybody, Nico, Sterling, Lou, they've all passed.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen Mo Tucker is retired, and Doug Yule, he's still alive. He didn't appear in this new movie that just came out. His voice was in it, but I don't know if that's archival or did he just not. If he had participated in the movie, then he would have been filmed. But so basically, he's the only performing member of the Velvet Underground. So I would love to see him. And I think his solo career, I know people go on about Lou Reed's solo career. Lou's career is good, but John Cale's is very underrated. I think he's a really underrated artist.
All right. Okay. Next question. What is your favorite insect?
I was listening to Pat's episode before this again. I liked his episode. I did like his episode, but I did like his answer of like a butterfly, because of their colors. And
that works.
Yeah.
Certainly. Next question. What scene from a movie scarred you for life?
Okay. I wasn't exactly a kid here. This is when I was 17. I already prepared for this one. This is a good story here. All right. I wouldn't say it scarred me, but it did something. It was I saw the first rated R movie that I saw on the big screen was Watchmen.
Okay.
And I mean, good movie. I know there's some comic book people out there who didn't care too much for the adaptation, or they changed some things here and there. But I thought it was
director's cut is much better.
Yeah. So I enjoyed it for my first R-rated movie, but now I went to see it with at that point in time, one of my many therapists. She put me with another person who was a part of this. I guess it was kind of like a big brothers, big sisters, although certainly not the age of a bigger brother. I mean, this was a guy who was middle-aged and he already had kids. And I was under his mentorship for the first like early 2009 up until 11th grade ended. And he would just take me out to places like if he was going to make a run over to Walmart, I would go with him. He would take me to go. I think there was only 2 movies that we went to go see. If I wanted to go to the record store, we would go there. We remember when we went to Circuit City when it was closing and they were having the liquidation there. And then he would have other kids that he would have with him and that were with. So it was kind of like a mentoring, and he helped out with some things that I was going through at that point in time. So nice guy. So I told him at some point, I mean, he would also, some of the kids that he had were like not that great. There was this kid that I knew through him that was like 7, who I think lived in like a group home. And just like, he was such a sweet guy. And like, I remember when we were like in Burger King, just sitting down, I said, I really want to see Watchmen. And he says, all right, we can see it this week. Not only did he take me, but he also took his own son who was 12 and his son's friend that was 12. And I'm thinking,
see Watchmen. All right.
Don't you think that's a bit, but he would tell me that he says he lets his son play Grand Theft Auto. And his logic is that if they act it out or do anything from it or whatever, or act it out, then that's it. You don't play it anymore. I'm like, okay. And it's just, so I guess that was like his mentality. So, okay, this guy's going to take his kid to go see Watchmen. All right. So we go see the movie and it is pretty grisly. And then the scene that I want to refer to is the scene where the Night Owl and Sil Spectre are on the owl ship, and they are having sex during the sounds of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very intense scene to be watching on the big screen. And I'm just watching this and thinking like, this is like sensory overload to be watching on a big, I mean, compared to everything else I'm seeing. And I'm looking at the son and his friend. I'm just thinking, no, and then it's just a very strange, I remember people like in school, like I remember one English class, they're like, oh, we went to see Watchmen. Oh, that scene when they were in the ship and they saved those people. Oh, that was so, and it just stuck with me. That was just such a weird scene, and that, his kids went to go see it.
And no mention of people blowing up like balloons.
No, when those scenes happened, I mean, those got a big reaction, like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, this is intense. And then the thing that happened is now it's kind of become like a Clockwork Orange thing for me. Now that whenever I hear Hallelujah,
mm-hmm.
it always makes me think of the that scene in Watchmen. And there was one of these instances. It was a newspaper writing class, and King's College, they had a little thing outside for 9/11 because there were a couple people from King's that died on 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a little service for them, and they said, okay, we're going to have some people come out and sing. And then they start into an Hallelujah, and I'm thinking of 2 people on a couch.
Whoops.
And I remember one time when I did a service trip, and one of the guys that I ended up talking to about that service, Father Looney, his name is Father Thomas Looney. I ended up having him as a teacher during my senior year, and he ended up he was one of the 2 staff that went on the service trip. And what we do on the serve trips is it's just service trips, helping other people out. And I was in a group that helped paint the kitchen of a senior center.
Mm-hmm.
And Father Looney was there too. And the thing is that he's now president of King's College. He just became president of King's College now, so that's very, very exciting that happened earlier this year. But I remember there were 2 other girls that were with us that were helping painting the kitchen, and we're just there. And I think the song came up, and I just said, yeah, this song I can't listen to it. This song I can't listen to the same way anymore because it was in a movie. I remember Father Looney. He's just there, like with his rollers, just painting the kitchen. He's going, oh, was it an emotional scene? And I'm like, well, no.
Depends on what you mean by that. Jesus.
So yeah, I know that one's a little later in life, but I knew that one had a great story attached to it. So
solid, solid. And I am sick of that song, by the way. It's been overplayed to hell and back.
And we just mentioned John Cale. John Cale did his own version, which doesn't get really any recognition. I mean, the ones that get any recognition is Leonard Cohen and Jeff Buckley. Huh. I don't know what album for John Cale he did his version, but I think if I hear anybody do it, I just always think back to
flashback to that scene.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So next question: what is the best nickname you've ever heard? Could be sports, celebrities from high school, anyone, whatever.
I don't know. I could probably give a couple that I've been called that I don't mind. When people found out that my name was that you just take the first letter of my first name and then my last name, it sounds like Akon, like the singer, and that's what I would get called sometimes. I would get called Akon. Remember, there was one guy on the 6th floor of the Holy Cross men's dormitories that would call me Air Bear, which I guess he was taking the 2 A's and the R's, and just went, okay, nobody's. But the one I would always get was Akon, which I didn't mind. I mean, and I remember when typing my name into some login thing for like 9th grade, or a couple of people that went, "Wait, your name, it's like Akon." And I said, "Yeah, no, that's cool." and people have always had I have another funny story about people spelling my name, that people often misspell it with 2 R's or 1 A, 1 R, 1 O.
Really?
They don't know it's 2 A's.
Yeah, I know that.
And then that's weird. And I remember one time I lived in a Ramada hotel during my sophomore year because there were too many freshmen coming in. So they said, "Anybody want to go to the Ramada?" Yeah, sure. I'll stay there for my sophomore year. And I became friends with the people next door. So I'm having lunch with them during the first semester. And I remember there was a lot of conversations going. There was a lot of people. And in situations like that, I get very anxious and just like, I don't know what to say. And then one of the guys there, he told me, "So Aaron, you spell your name with 2 A's? I went, "Yeah, that's good shit." And I just, I just lost it. I just went, of all the things you can tell me, that's what, like all this time, is it 2 R, 1 A, 2 R's? And then here's this guy that just says, "No, it's good shit."
Good shit. I mean, and it's the most common spelling anyway, right? Aaron?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, like Hank Aaron, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first time I saw that name when I was a kid, Hank Aaron. And it's Aaron. And any other spelling to me would look weird, So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. All right. So, okay, next question. What would you name your boat if you had one?
I think it would have to be... usually ships are named after females. I guess I would, I don't know, I'm trying to thinking of...
I mean, you can name it whatever,
I don't know, just keep it in the... I've already thought about this before, but, prior to doing the podcast, but I'm just going to show my inner nerd here and just go with, keeping with the Velvet Underground theme. I think just calling a boat Nico would be pretty cool. It would stick out just like, okay,
that's good shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid. All right. So next question. Where is the worst smelling place you've ever been in?
Okay, this is another one where I've been thinking about. I mean, it could have been saved for the craziest concert crowd, but I wanted to save it for this question particularly.
Okay.
This is kind of a stretch, but the story that results in it is very entertaining here. I went to see Motley Crue in 2005. The tickets were given to me on Christmas by my mother. There were 2 tickets, and I know she had no intentions of wanting to go with me. She did not, and I said, "I don't want you to go either." So I went with a friend from church who was about a year older than me, and then his dad went with us. And the thing is, he couldn't sit with us because the 2 seats we had were together, so he had to sit somewhere else. And then his dad came later in the concert. He came to get a few rows back with us, and so I'm going to this concert, Motley Crue concert, with these 2 people, friend from church and his dad. And I mean, it's already nuts over there. I mean, it's already you expect from it was the red. I'm looking at the poster right now. It was the Red, White, and Crew tour. And I think there was a DVD that was released of it, Carnival of Sin or something like that. And you could see I think they did the same thing for every show. But I mean, it was like all this circus themed. I mean, there were these two acrobats that were like, it's like they were on the stage and they were like making out. I'm thinking, yeah, boy, it's just like all this crazy stuff was happening. But the thing that takes the thing I remember most about, I mean, it was a great concert, but the thing I remembered the most about it was for that tour, Tommy Lee, and I apologize to some people in advance for telling this story, but Tommy had something that tour. Tommy Lee, he had a thing called the Titty Cam, and it was a thing. It was just basically a camera, a handheld camera, and it was connected to the big screen on their stage, and it was an excuse for women to take their tops off. And so I think it was like Vince was going, all right, or one of the guys was saying, all right, Tommy's going to take you over to his titty cam, Tommy. And then Tommy's going, okay, I'm going to go look out for you. Titties, where are you? And he's like looking over, and I'm thinking, this is all fake. No, this is all fake. This is, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I thought in my head, like as a kid, that no, they just popped in that tape or something. No, I'm thinking, no, they did. No, there were people there taking off and he's like looking out for them, and then it's like there would be like somebody, there would be a girl like, flashing them, and then he would just get a focus on, go, oh, there we go. What do you think of those guys? And there would be a response from the audience, and I'm just thinking, I can't. Oh my God, I can't. And it's like a confusion. I shouldn't be watching this, nor should I mean I'm just like, oh my God, this is nuts. I think there were like at least 3 or 4 different women that he would get. And he would and then he would end it with, and I'm revising this, he would say, God bless the titties of the USA. And then everybody would cheer, and then they would go into the next song. Now, and the funny story about that, is that the next day, my mom told me this later on, is that I think the concert was on a Friday, and then Sunday, my mom's talking at coffee hour with the dad, saying, how was the Motley Crue concert? Oh, and he said, oh, it was good. Yeah. Did Aaron and so-and-so, they have a good time? Yeah. And then the dad leans over to my mom and whispers, don't tell my
Nice.
And then they stopped attending church about a year later. I think it was more so because the structure had changed. It was grade level, and then it was changed by activity. Like one day you would be, like 1 week you would be in making movies, and one day would be, 1 week would be storytelling, and 1 week would be arts and crafts. And I think that's what my mom thinks drove her away from wanting to be in the church anymore. Well, I like to think it was probably
Yeah.
But to get to the point of it being smelly, the shirt that I bought there, it smelled like cigarettes the next day.
Okay.
And my mom's like, I got to wash this for you before you wear it again. It was that, it's nuts that because there were a lot of smokers there. And I think it was in the Dirt episode of Rock Solid where Mike Schmidt said that, that's the crowd that they attract, all these hillbillies. It's just, so there were a lot of, and I remember telling the dad of my friend, I said, smoker. So he got a security guard, and they got a couple smokers to go away. But even then, my shirts still smelled like cigarettes.
Yeah, of course.
So if I really struggled to think about this one, but then I remembered that, okay, well, there's a better story attached. It's not so much about the smell, but it's more so about the titty cam.
Yeah,
that was probably the
setting. Yes.
That was pretty. I mean, I've been in some pretty rabid crowds. Most of them are in Atlantic City, though. It's just something about Atlantic City that makes people want to drink. I don't. It just. I mean, we've been in, like, my mom took us to, like, Alice, the same friend and I, we went to see Alice Cooper like a year later, and that was my first time seeing Alice. I saw him again, which was a much better time, because the first time around, there were still a lot of drunk people there. And Ace Frehley, there were a lot of drunk people there. And it's just like, and I went to see Peter Frampton in 2006 with my uncle, and there were these 2 women who were in the front, and they were telling me, don't drink, or something like, she was sharing about her concert experiences, and they were just very loud throughout the entire show, and it kind of affected my enjoyment of the concert. And I went to see the Tubes with the help of Pat to review. There was somebody in my peripheral vision that was miming and choreographing almost all the songs, which was cute at first, but then a while I just wanted to take the sharpest object in the room, and it really got on my nerves. But I mean, the show was good. I mean, there were some other people in the city, and I think after the Tube show, I just realized, I think I'm like City. And it's a very long Lyft drive because that's how I get to the concerts now. Okay. Now I don't need to be taking. I've told my uncle he can retire now from taking me to concerts. I will only ask him if he to go. if it's of interest to him, because now I can afford it, and I've seen almost everybody I can see. So, I mean, the ones who play the big venues. So these last few shows, I've just been taking a left ride. I don't mind paying the money. I mean, it's not too long, but to go to Atlantic City on left ride is very expensive. And I mean, I'm very because the Monkees are coming to Atlantic City on my birthday, which is this coming Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to go, but I had to go. No, it's too expensive, and I'm not asking my mom or my uncle to lug me around. So that's why I'm seeing Sebastian Bach next. I mean, because it's closer, and it's although I would have loved to have seen the Monkees. Apparently, this is their farewell. But again, I mean, I'm thinking that the people who watch the Monkees, they would know better to not get drunk, or I don't. But I think most of the time that I've been in Atlantic City, I think the only time where I didn't notice anybody was when I went to see the Doors, or not the Door. Well, they were under the name Riders on the Storm, but it was still Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger.
Okay.
I went that to my mom. My mom, big Doors fan, and she got me when I was looking for 60s bands. She says, "Have you ever heard the Doors?" And yeah, they're like one of my top 5 favorite bands. My favorite American band. I'm very happy to have seen that show. I don't remember anybody getting out of hand for that show. That was in Atlantic City. Good show, and I'm glad I got to see it because now Ray Manzarek has passed. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. Okay. So next question: when did you screw everything up, but no one ever found out it was you?
Okay, this is a weird one. There was a time when it's a little, considering that the things didn't happen the way they did. I remember it was 11th grade in biology class. I think it was like towards like the end of the year, or we were going to watch a movie and we had to answer questions to it. And like it was like one of those things where we would watch a movie, and then when the things came up on the questions, okay, what did so and so say to so and so? Okay, so you write that down. We did it for Jurassic Park too, and the movie that we were going to do it for, probably towards getting close to the end of the year, like things were winding down, and I guess they were starting to pop in DVDs, or I don't know. But we were the movie that we were going to watch, that we were watching, was I Am Legend, and at that point in time, I became very anxiety ridden over in 8th grade when I heard about the whole 2012 claims.
Oh yeah, the end of the world and all that.
And I kind of wanted to stay away from. I remember watching it when there was when we were having half days, or it was like towards the end of the year in 10th grade, we were watching it, and I just felt very unsettled, and I decided to go over to talk to a person who was, I'll give her a shout out, Miss Selfridge, who was my caseworker for my IEP in high school. Great, very accommodating woman. She would also talk to me for like a counseling and not. So I would go over. So I went over there, and I thought this time around, I can't get out of this one. So I just sent an email to the teacher for biology, and I said, I really don't feel comfortable watching. She says, okay, well, I'll come up with another movie. And she said that I'm going to tell the class tomorrow that it was on a list of movies that can't be screened in schools. I'm thinking, okay, so I'm already given the go ahead that, all right, so I have to put on my best acting chops here. So then I get into the class, and she says to everybody, oh, we can't watch I Am Legend anymore. Oh, why? Because it's on a list of movies that can't be watched in schools. That's weird. And looking at the person that was sitting next to me, that's weird. And they didn't know that it's me. So instead we watched An Inconvenient Truth, which,
okay.
And she was asking me afterwards, are you okay with this? I'm like,
it was more educational. Well, I mean, you didn't screw everything up as such.
That's like the only because this is a trait of being on the spectrum, and something I got to do a little better job at is being honest. I mean, it's gotten better over the years, but I think when I screw something up, then I'll admit to it. But that was like the closest thing I could think of is of all things, I Am Legend. It's just funny now to think about it.
All right. So next question: what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
I was watching that. Trying to think. I want to say something that came out from the Velvet Underground documentary that just came out. I mean, most of it was all known to me, but there was some stuff regarding John Cale that I didn't know. Some of his music upbringing and his upbringing in Wales. I mean, he's a Welsh man, and just hearing about his life. I mean, that's the most. I think that's the best I've got there. So I learned some stuff from the Velvet Underground documentary that I thought was interesting, and just seeing all the footage that was filmed, which isn't too much of the Velvet Underground. I don't know. as far as anything, or I guess I could tell a story from good. There's always good stories from Goodwill. I guess I can, if I had to choose a fact, I would say I can't really think of anything, to be honest, but if I had to pick anything, I would just say that just learning anything about John Cale, because I feel like with the other people from the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed's the most talked about, but John Cale, I mean, the guy had a bunch of ideas, and just hearing about his Welsh upbringing, that he went over to New York, and then that's how he met Lou, which I knew about, but I mean, I can't remember specifics about it, but I mean, it was all new to me, and I thought it was that first like 30 minutes or first 20 minutes of the Velvet Underground documentary I was like sucked in, because it was like learning about like their childhoods. You get to hear from Lou Reed's sister, and it was just really intriguing to find all this out, because it's prehistory, because the stuff that comes later words with them meeting Andy, yeah, I know all this stuff, but I mean, it was still presented. It's a good documentary, although they do kind of skim with the Doug Yule years, but yeah, I would say John Cale. The thing I was going to mention, there's some funny things that go on in Goodwill. We get some funny donations. Mm-hmm. And earlier this week, amongst the jewelry, the co-manager, George, found these playing cards that had names of alcoholic drinks that had dirty names on them.
Okay.
I guess I didn't know that there was something that existed like that. He was like reading them all off, and then he was just like, oh, there's one, there's screwdriver, and then he was saying, oh, I don't know if I should read this one. So he's saying, well, what? Well, it says erection, and then and then he read them all off, and I was just a fit of laughter. I could not stop laughing. He was reading every dirty drink, and I'm just thinking, well, there's something interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that these drinks existed.
Well, yeah. I mean, the one that you mentioned, I didn't know about it either.
And then there's a couple. The one, I think he read one that was, I can't remember all of them, because I was trying to meet up with my numbers and list away and just try to get everything up. And he was just reading off all these names of the drinks. And I think he said one of them was orgasm. And then there was one called the Trouser Rouser. And then everybody was just cracking up over it. And we always have these stories about like, what happens with these people that donate these things. Like, I get it with the records too. Like, I see like we were donated a copy of Wingspan, the Paul McCartney and Wings documentary album tie-in on vinyl, which is nuts, because I mean, vinyl was, I mean, people can say that it never went out, but at that point in 2001, when that came out, I mean, vinyl was not readily available like it is now and getting repressed. So to find that on vinyl was very valuable, and I thought it would go for a lot of money, and ended up going for like $50 or whatever, because we need more attention on Shop Goodwill. I mean, there's I can tell you a later story about the newspaper that we found, and I'll give you a link, because we had we had like news stations coming over to talk about this pre-revolutionary newspaper. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. I can give you the link for that later. But so we do these things like, well, this must have, there may have been a passing in the family. Like with records, when I see like UK pressings of the Beatles albums, I'm thinking, okay, this person was clearly a collector. Yeah. There must have been a death in the family, and somebody just decided to give them, not knowing how valuable they were. So in this case, with the jewelry that had been donated and these dirty drink cards, they were all thinking, oh, that's probably how she died. And just like, and then the co-manager saying, yeah, too many sex on the beaches.
Yes.
And then one of the women went, yeah, too much sand. And then the co-manager asked, what, do you know from experience? It's just like crazy, like funny little things like that. I can't believe we can get away with them, because I've heard other stories from Goodwill that when stuff like that comes up or gets donated, I heard a story that was told to us when we were being taught about sexual harassment there, which was a very awkward thing to be sitting through. We heard one story about a donation. Somebody brought it was not on our end. It was from downstairs. I don't think it was at our place, but at another Goodwill. Someone had donated sex toys, and the employees decided that it would be a fun thing to put it on their manager's desk. And then we were told by the woman who was giving the lecture about sexual harassment, we're sad to say that those people are no longer working for us. And it's just like, we were hearing all about this, and and it's like, technically we shouldn't be doing it. We get erotic stuff that's donated, and it's a fun day in the office when that happens. So.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. All right. Okay, so next question. If you were given a 1-minute ad slot during the Super Bowl, that you couldn't sell, you have to use it. What would you fill it with?
I think I would fill it with a section about just a minute about Dr. Sarno.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the Super Bowl is widely watched. I mean, it's one of the most watched that everybody watches. I think that and the Academy Awards and other award shows. But, so yeah, I would bring attention to that. I mean, whether people want to believe it or not, that's up to them. But I think like any awareness with Dr. Sarno and TMS, I think I would fill that slot with.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so are you good for overtime?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go for overtime. First, you are going back in time and wind up face-to-face with 15-year-old you. You have 10 seconds before you travel back to the present day. What do you tell your younger self?
I've been thinking about this one. I'm thinking I would tell myself to just keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I don't know what that point, I mean, the other thing I was thinking about it earlier today, I was thinking, 15-year-old me, that's almost, I mean, I'm going to be 30 next set. I'm like, so they're going to see me 15 years later. Like, this is what I'm going to look like 15 years later. But no, I would probably just say keep doing what you're doing, because if I had to go back and everything changes, I'm thinking of all the possibilities of time travel. But even then, I would just say just do what you're doing, because, I mean, it's going to be worth the wait.
All right, yeah. Okay, so next question. If you could live in anyone's head for 15 minutes, a la being John Malkovich, who would you choose?
Maybe like, I'll just say, just keep it short and sweet. I'll say Paul McCartney. See what goes on through the mind of one of the most prolific songwriters ever. And just, I mean, it's funny that I say him because I met the guy, but I was very young. And if we ever have one of these show and tells again, Murray or whatever, the story, hearing Murray's story about how he met Paul, it's very different from mine, because I remember Paul was being like a little bit, he was acting a little bit, he was very, very friendly, but he was being like a little silly too. And I think that was because I was a kid. I was basically a kid then. And he was making, I remember like the first joke he cracked was after we all said our hellos, we all shook hands. He goes, "You're Aaron?" And I shook at my hand, and we sat down. And I was holding on to a Sierra Mist. And my uncle says, "Yeah, Aaron, why did you put that down?" And Paul goes, "Oh, is he having a bit of a whiskey?" and then it's just, nice. And then he was just pointing out things that were great. And he told me when we were having pictures taken, he's like, taking the pictures like 1, 2, 3, smile, 1, 2, 3, smile. And it's just, so it's now occurred to me that he was because I was young that he was being, I would be curious to know what goes on through songwriters ever. So.
Good answer for sure. All right. So next question. You are on death row. You die tomorrow, but you get to choose the way you will be executed. No matter the logistics involved, you can go big or small. How do you want to go?
I'll just say whatever's painless.
It is the most popular answer. Just drift away and that's it. I think that would be my answer as well. All right. So next question. Your superpower is that you can give phobias to people. What would you make people afraid of?
Listen to the other answers that people have been given for this one. And I did listen to Woody's and hearing about like he wouldn't give phobias to anybody, which I can agree with that. If I had to say anything, just have any fear of like, I don't know, just being an idiot or just being dumb. Because like before you do anything stupid, just think about it for a second about what you're going to do and the repercussions of it. I mean, that's what I have.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, so next one. Would you rather win, let's say, $5 million, tax-free, no questions asked, or wake up tomorrow, still in 2021, but 10 years younger? At your age, this question doesn't have the same repercussions.
Yeah, I know. In this case, I would be 19. So yes. No, I would take the money.
Yes. So would I. At your age, for sure. Right now, I'm not sure anymore, though. All right. So, okay. Next question. What is the best compliment you've ever received?
I remember it was during my senior sem. I did a paper on now the MPA rating system. They changed their name shortly before lockdown. I didn't notice it until watching trailers and seeing in the corner. MPA.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, did they drop the other A? Huh. Okay.
So wait, originally it was Motion Pictures
Association. I think Association of America.
Yeah.
I don't know why they dropped the other A. I think it's just the movie Motion Picture Association, or I don't know. I just noticed that in the trailers before COVID that they dropped an A.
I didn't know.
But at that point, the MPAA, I did a paper on them after seeing a documentary. It was kind of fitting to do because my freshman year, I one of the first things I watched on my laptop. I was there watching things on Netflix streaming, and one of the things I watched was the documentary, This Film Is Not Yet Rated, which...
I saw that. Yes, I remember now.
Which is a great documentary.
Yes.
And that got me really interested. I've always been interested in the topic of censorship. I think that has to do with my mom protecting me from seeing PG-13 and R-rated movies even music censorship. I think that's what's gotten me interested in the whole censorship topic. But anyway, I did a paper on that, and it was pretty hard work. I mean, me doing that in the internship, I mean, there were some internship hours that that were still left over. But luckily, the person who was in charge of the internship said, "No, I'm gonna write them out. No, it's okay. I'll redeem them for you. You don't have to worry about them." It's there. I think there was like a good 30 that I had to do something with, but no, they accommodated me there. So, but I wrote this paper on the MPA. I gave a presentation. I wrote the thing. I got a bunch of check marks on it. I mean, I had all this time to write about it. I even had time off of my internship to write the paper. And after I gave my presentation, there was another person who had presented, and I think another one. And then we all wrapped up, and we were all talking to teachers afterwards. And they were, "Aaron, you were pretty good." And yeah, you were good. And then, the teacher there, Dr. Kamash, he was not in King's for very long. He was there for 2011 till my semester, but he was there for like 3 years, and he was the journalism guy. And he said, referring to me, his was one of the better papers I read.
Nice.
And I felt like at that moment that I got an A. Now I ended up getting a B, but that felt like, I mean, a compliment can mean so much more than just a letter grade.
Yes.
And I think that is like a case in point of a compliment meaning much more than, I mean, in college, my grades weren't all that great on average, but to defend myself, I mean, that's what I'm capable of doing on my own. I mean, it didn't really occur to me how much help I got when I was in middle school and high school, being with my mom and what have you, whatever support I had. But I mean, on my own, that's what I'm able to do. But I remember that being really meaning a lot.
I can absolutely imagine having a good teacher who gives you a compliment like that. Sometimes that's all it takes to give you the push you need. So nice. Okay, next question. What is your hometown best known for?
Well, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, Sicklerville, New Jersey is not exactly. It's just the street. It's just the street address. Where I was born was Voorhees. I guess one of them. I could tell you New Jersey as a whole, as far as with music. But I think in our department, I think there's somebody. This is like very low tier stuff. But there's a politician who's related to Kelly Ripa.
Okay.
That's always showing up on the ballots, and it's just like, okay, do I vote for this person or they got the last name Ripa, although I've heard stuff about her, whatever. I'll just because I can always remember that there's somebody related to Kelly Ripa, and that's like our one thing that we have going for us. The other thing that we got, I can tell you that this is actually pretty good. Not too far from here. I mean, it's still in the Gloucester Township, Camden County area. Deptford High School is where Patti Smith graduated from.
Oh, okay.
And she then went to Rutgers, but she dropped out, and eventually she went over to New York and met Robert Mapplethorpe, which is what her book Just Kids is all about. And then she started her career in music. But I went to see her in Philly in 2019, and she didn't make any mentions about being at Deptford High School. But it's just nuts that she went there. And we go by Deptford all the time. And I'm just thinking, Patti Smith's just, it's, I mean, I didn't go to Deptford. I went to Timber Creek High School. But I mean, it's still insane because we're not really known for a whole lot, but maybe some athletes here and there. But I think that's like our coolest stat there.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. Next question. Name me 3 items on your bucket list.
Well, I would like to move out at some point. I mean, anything on my mind right now. I'd like to have another job, whether it be in writing. I mean, I want to do something remote because, I mean, Goodwill has been good to me, but I mean, we're even getting an incentive because of COVID, because we've been able to give them a roof over their heads. And that's been going on for more than a year, which I don't get because, I mean, COVID is still going on then. But I would say, that. So a job. And I guess the third thing would be, I really can't think of anything else, but I'll just say, I mean, at some point I would like to have a family.
Yeah, that's absolutely valid.
Yeah.
Absolutely valid answer. Okay, so next question. What is the best insult you've ever heard?
a tricky one. The one that can come up, it's a bit of a hard one to explain, but I've heard it. There's this guy named Stevie Ricks he's on YouTube. He does impressions of rock stars.
Mhm.
He's really good at it. He performs as them, like he sings songs by them, and he also does skits as the characters, and he goes really deep with the references. Like he'll do impersonations of Brian Epstein and like who else? Neil Aspinall or George Martin. Like typically you would only see like people impersonate the Beatles, but they're like getting like he even impersonates Alan Williams, their first manager, and how he still wants his commission. It's like, I want my commission, and that's always the reoccurring joke with him. But there was a video that he did reading like Stevie Ricks. He gets a lot of bad comments from other people that say like, oh, this is shameful what you're doing, like impersonating these people, like, taking the piss or the whatever terms that they would use there. Just and he did a video where he read the criticism of himself, but he was impersonating Freddie Mercury. And his impersonation of Freddie Mercury, it isn't to a T as the way he doesn't do too much singing as Freddie. He just does it more so as a personality. He's the big buck teeth, and he does two different versions, one with long hair and then one with the mustache. And he was doing it in the 70s version, and he was reading all the bad comments and then giving insults to them. And one of the things that I can't remember what the comment was, but he's just said, "I feel sorry for your father not wearing a condom one night." I'm just like, oh my God, that is me.
Yes. Nice. My eyes skipped over one question, so I'm going to backtrack. Is there one question and the answer to that question that will instantly tell you whether you can be friends with someone?
I guess if they like the Beatles, I don't.
Okay.
Or maybe the simplest way. I think it was given as an answer before. If they're pro or anti-Trump.
Yeah.
Although I will admit that the other, I mentioned Community was one of the shows that I watched.
Mm-hmm.
The Apprentice was another one, just because Mark Burnett's name was on it. I love the concept of the Apprentice. I think the UK version is amazing with Lord Sugar, who is way more likable than Trump is. But yeah, I really loved the concept of it. And Trump wasn't that bad in the first seasons. But if the show I don't think it has a chance of getting revived because nobody wants to touch him anymore.
Yeah.
But I think if he did it would be in the celebrity version. It would just be people like Roseanne Barr and just all these right-winged people.
Yeah.
I'm just done with him now. But I wouldn't mind rewatching this because those early seasons of The Apprentice are some good reality TV. But him as a person, no.
Sounds good. All right. So next question. If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, language not an issue, who would it be?
I'm going to go with 3 people that are still around because I'm not the biggest fan of people, but bringing back people. I know this is just fantasy. I'm not a big on bringing back people from the dead.
Okay.
I would go say, even though I already
be it could be people from any era. If you wanna have like 1975 Paul McCartney over for dinner, you can.
Well, I would say Paul McCartney just so I can. I mean, I've always been thinking about wanting, because next year is going to be 20 years since that happened. Mm-hmm. So I would love to do like a whole recap thing, which I don't know what my chances are there. I mean, I still have the contacts I still have some of the contacts that I do, but, or at least the person referred me to make that happen was the person who had Johnny Yoko's clients. Mm-hmm. And, that's how it all got started. But, I mean, realistically, but the chance of that happening, but I would still pick him to talk to just because as a catch up, I guess. I think I would want to talk to, I'm going to go with 2 Michiganders. I'm going to go with Alice Cooper.
Okay.
And Iggy Pop.
All right.
I think both of them are well spoken. Alice, with him, I mean, I can understand with most of his interviews, they ask like the usual questions. And he's one of those guys that he usually tells the same stories over. Like I would want to know more about the music of, he's the one that got me into Arthur Lee in Love. Like it was after Arthur Lee had passed. He was really playing them a lot on his show, and I went ahead and listened to Forever Changes, and I thought it was an amazing album. And Iggy, just because I've heard some amazing things about him, and he's just amazing, and that he's got I love his low speaking voice. He's one of those. Him and Alice are like 2 people that I could just listen to for hours and hours and just not get bored.
Yeah, that works. Good call. All right. So, okay, next question. What keeps you up at night?
I guess like anything that's upcoming, like any appointments or just things to do, something that I don't want to have done, or those like obstacles, or like it could be simple. I mean, nobody likes to go to the dentist, or just like little things like that. Like I wouldn't say they keep me up at night. I mean, I do have trouble sleeping. I do take midnights, which is melatonin with other things mixed into it. I can't do straight up with straight up melatonin, that kind of zonks you out. But with midnights, you wake up a little better, I think. But I mean, I'm able to go. But if anything like kept me, it would be anything regarding the future.
Yeah, it can be intimidating. That's true. Mm-hmm. Full of the unknown. Next question. You might be a little young for that one, but what is your fork in the road moment, the pivotal moment in your life?
I think it would have to be I've been thinking about this one, and I think this would be a great way to bring it all full circle here. Mm-hmm. I think it would be my grandmother asking me to watch Survivor with her that night in 2002.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Because I wouldn't, although I do have, I'll say this, that case in point is that I probably would not be here right now if my grandmother had not asked me. I wouldn't be here doing this interview because my grandmother getting me into showing me Survivor eventually got me to David.
Yes.
Got me to Pat and got me to my job, got me to name that tune. So I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Although the funny thing is that I did see a video of Pat like 7 years prior without knowing.
Okay.
I haven't told him this yet. I'm waiting for my next episode of Rock Solid. I'll probably tell him on that just to see his genuine reaction. I don't know what kind of reaction he's going to get, but I couldn't believe it myself. I remember looking on YouTube for I wanted to find like Paul Stanley impressions. I wanted to find people who did like edits of all of his stage banter, mm-hmm. or anybody who could do a good Paul Stanley impersonation. And there was this one he was all painted up with the Star Child makeup in a robe and a wig, and he was reading these letters, "Dear Star Child." And I thought, okay, well, he's not doing it in Paul's speaking voice; he's doing it on his on-stage voice. So it was kind of weird to watch, and I'm thinking, I think it's okay. And then it was not until later that I found Rock Solid. I can't remember if it's on his own YouTube account, but then eventually when I was looking at other videos or something, I found those videos and went, that was Pat? So I'm like, nice. I'm almost, that almost convinces me that even without David bringing me to Rock Solid, our paths would have still crossed either way. But I still like the fact that years and years of watching a reality show led me to all this.
Yeah. And I guess you didn't know about Never Not Funny previously?
No.
Okay. Because he was on that podcast regularly as well. So that's how I knew about Rock Solid. It was through Never Not Funny.
Yeah, I know it's most people that these people who are I know that Pat keeps saying that most of the people that listen to them, it's because of the Elliot Easton episode. I think that's like the number one thing. But for me, the thing that got me here was nothing related to music.
Okay. That works, Okay, so next question, and the last one of overtime. What tells you the most about a person?
I think, with me, I am of two religious backgrounds. My mom is Christian. My dad, rest in peace, was Jewish. And I'm kind of been in between both of them, or I'm not either or. I've always been told I'm both. And with other people who are religious, I think even going to King's and having met a lot of people there, some of them who are surprisingly very, very devoted to their Catholicism, it's just very admirable. And I think that anybody with some exceptions here and there, I think if anybody has any religious background and are very devoted to their religion, just tells me that they have good values.
All right. What about people who are not religious?
I don't, just anybody, if you do like a kind gesture or something, I think if anybody just the first, like just any random act of kindness, just they do something that like, I don't know, like just, I would say like any act of kindness, whoever wants to start the people who start a conversation are also the ones that would tell me things about people. I think like later actions tell me about things or the traits of a person, or just if anybody's friendly or outgoing right from the beginning, or we have something in common, then I know that they're a pretty good person.
All right. Okay, so that's that's a good note to end the overtime on. That's the questions. Aaron, where can we find you online?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Aaron_Conn. Albums Uncovered is at AlbumsU. I'm not the best at keeping Albums Uncovered up to date with social media, but whenever there's a new episode, which is now we're in our third season here, it's I say we're it's only me doing the whole thing, although I do rely on other people to do these who come up with these archival clips to do, and the people who make the music to give me a show. But yeah, we're in our third season, and typically I do one album per month, which wasn't the case when I first started out, which I had to change starting in 2021. So at some point every month, I'll have one episode on an album and then another episode on the things I've recently purchased. So I'm at AlbumsU there. I'm also on Facebook there. You can follow me you can look up Pop Culture Beast. I don't know what their handle is, but look them up.
You're on Instagram as well?
I'm on Instagram as well at Conn_records, which it was actually meant to be when I was selling stuff on eBay, which did lead me up to my job at Goodwill. I think I got some practice there and selling some stuff on there. So, but that's the reason why, because I called my business Conn Records. Okay. But it still works because that's all I'm posting. I do post the movies here occasionally there, but it's mostly music, so I'm on there. I would also tell people to please go to shopgoodwill.com. Just give us the support, because the thing that we get the most about shopgoodwill.com is that when I talk to people, when anybody talks to people, that that there is a website where we sell things and auction them, then they're donated from Goodwill. They go, well, I didn't know it existed. Well, we need more attention here. So just check it out. I know the idea of getting stuff from Goodwill, Goodwill's usually associated with junk or unwanted things, but we get some nice things that come in and they go for a lot of money. If you want to look it up, you can look up Goodwill, South Jersey, pre-revolutionary newspaper, and look up the two videos that we did. We had ABC News and CBS News coming over to our place to talk about two pre-revolutionary newspapers. So that gives you an idea of what we get. We get like very valuable items. And speaking as a record collector, we get some good vinyl records. And sadly, some of them, the ones that are most valuable, are the ones that I end up buying for a discount.
Perks of the job.
I think the most valuable, I'll tell you, when we get to see them firsthand, I'll tell you, but if I hadn't kept it, I would have been listing Nico's Chelsea Girl, her first album, first pressing, which is like worth hundreds of dollars. So that gives you an idea of like what people, they don't know how much they have on there. And we're not the only ones. There's other Goodwills that are uploading too. And just, you never know what you're going to find. So just whatever your interest is, especially vinyl enthusiasts, just look on Goodwill, look at the records. And if you want to see what the stuff that I list, well, now we have drafts. So people don't type them up or posting my stuff, but you can just filter it to the one in New Jersey. We're the only one in New Jersey that's uploading anything. So I would please suggest anybody check out Shop Goodwill, just see what it's like, and you may find something you like.
All right. Sounds good. So thank you very much, Aaron, for your time. And thank you guys for listening. And we will talk to you on the next one. Thanks.